so today we want to show you how to be disciplined. What does it look like to start from point A and not just jump to point Z, but to get to B, C, D, and start developing this habit of following through for yourself?
In any circumstance, when you're trying to build discipline, it comes down to 4 different areas where you have to grow. The first area is being able to set clear goals. If you're just trying to be disciplined for the sake of being disciplined, it's going to be very short-lived. The second is being able to prioritize, and specifically prioritize tasks. So which tasks are the most important, which ones are actually moving me closer towards my goals. That's a skill. It's something that requires a lot of practice because you'll go through points where you end up thinking everything on your to-do list is the most important thing. And that makes it feel very, very hard to be disciplined. The third area is time management. You can't really be disciplined if you don't manage your time. You're only awake for 16-ish hours a day. You don't have all the time in the world. You are going to be sleeping some of the time. You also probably have a job or some type of meaningful work that you do. You might have a family or a partner or an animal that you have to take care of. So you're not just you living in a silo. You have to be able to manage your time and responsibilities. And then the fourth skill or area is being able to make responsible choices. That sounds like a parent talking to a child, but we sometimes have to learn how to parent ourselves to be disciplined. Making responsible choices really just means looking at all the different options and choices you have and saying which one is actually going to help me get to my goal. Then you sit down with yourself in the moment and you make a responsible choice because it leads you to your goal, right? There's no one track to responsible choices. You have to know what the goal is. Again, coming back to that first area. So, real life example. How I went from overweight to very fit and healthy and never went back as a result of building discipline. Setting the stage. Imagine that you're in college. This was where I was. You're in college, you're studying something that's very challenging. For me, it was engineering. I was in school full time. I also wanted to work because I wanted to learn how to run a business and I wanted to push myself and I wanted to have money. So I also was working full time, pretty much full time. It was like 36 hours a week at a coffee shop. And then on top of that, you also need to lose 30 to 40 pounds, and you also want to compete in bodybuilding, which requires an intensive 6-month preparation period. And on top of that, you also kind of want to start your own business. So you put yourself out there and you start working with clients of your own, and you have to show up for them on a certain schedule. That was where I was at, and that was my circumstance at the time. Now, in order to do all of those things and be successful with them, I knew that I had to have a very clear goal. I knew I had to manage my time appropriately, and I knew I would have to kind of manage the different options and choices that came up in order to keep myself focused. Here's how that broke down and how I built discipline. The first thing I did was I had a clear goal. I wanted to compete in bodybuilding. I wanted to get on the stage, and that was goal number 1. Everything else funneled underneath that. I want to serve my clients. I want to work full time. I want to make sure I get good grades. Those were all my goals. But the big one that I was focused on that might be relevant to where you're at is you want to lose weight or you want to get fit. That was what I wanted to do. The second thing I learned how to do was I learned how to manage my time. This very specifically meant for me managing each day hour by hour in a physical planner. I knew I could not do all the things I wanted to do if I flew by the seat of my pants.
And Lindsey usually did that.
I did. I usually just kind of went with the flow, did what I needed to do, and then before I knew it, it'd be dark, and I'd be like, oh, I definitely didn't do everything I needed to do today. So then it came back to really just learning how to manage my hours in a single day at a time. Once I got really good at managing my day, then I'd start to plan out my weeks a little bit more. And it built over time. Eventually, I transferred that over to a digital calendar. But it started with just learning how do I manage all the hours I have in a day to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish, right? That's really where I started. And again, that became a daily habit of, okay, what's on my calendar today, hour by hour? How do I need to approach the day to be successful? From there, it came back to prioritizing actions. And again, we're focusing on that fitness goal. So how do I prioritize my day so that I'm getting the things done that actually lead to my goal fitness-wise? Okay, well, I have to prioritize my workout. In order for me to step on stage, I can't do that if I'm not working out. So I had to put my workouts as the first thing I scheduled within the bounds of my day. And then the second thing was probably my meals, right? Especially when it came to whether I was going to prepare my food that day or for the week. I had to prioritize those two actions. Everything else could kind of be worked around those two actions, but I made sure those were the priority and they were built in advance. The last thing was, once all those aspects were set and I was practicing those on a day-by-day basis, then I had to start making some choices. And specifically when you're in school, and maybe not in school, because as adults this happens too, and you're invited to parties and there's drinks and there's food and there's all these fun things, I had to start practicing, again, using that word intentionally, practicing making conscious choices that aligned with my goals, which meant, okay, I am going to go to the party and I'm going to have one drink. That's it. Or I'm going to go to the party and I'm not going to have dessert, but I am going to have a drink, or vice versa. I'm going to have a dessert, not going to have a drink. I was just making conscious choices. I wasn't saying I can't have any of that. I was saying I choose to have this, or I choose to not have that. So learning how to make responsible choices that aligned with my goals was a practice, and I was not always successful with it, but I practiced and practiced and practiced every week, every day, and eventually I got to my goal. So just through the process of getting to that first goal, I built so much discipline. And the great thing about that discipline was that my outcome was that I won the biggest show in New England when it came to bodybuilding and competitions.
While she was in school, while she was working full time.
While in school, while working full time. And again, going from somebody who was not fit, not healthy, was very all or nothing, to that point through small disciplines. Now, when you're thinking of yourself, there's a couple different things that you want to consider that we talked through in this episode. The first is, what areas do you need to grow in order to become more disciplined, specifically with your health and fitness? Think about the 4 that I talked about in my example at the beginning. Time management, goal setting, or having a clear goal, prioritization, and or making responsible, conscious choices. 4 different areas, all you can grow in. You can pick one to focus on, but assess yourself. Where and how do you need to grow in those 4 areas, in any one of those 4 areas, or all 4, in order to become healthy? And then second, what must you let go of in order to do so? What ideas about discipline do you need to let go of? What habits might you have to let go of? Think about those things, because if you have to let go of things, that's going to create space that will allow you to step up and grow. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you outgrow things. So what do you need to let go of in order to step into those new skills, those new areas, and become more disciplined?